Well, hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to tell you about classes and objects in Java and how we can use them in BlueJ. The program I'm going to take you through is to introduce the concepts, then introduce data fields, then show how you can create concrete objects from a class in BlueJ, and then at the end I will show you how to work with objects from within your own program. The concepts of class and object. A class is an abstract concept. The term comes from classification. Some classifications you might know are mammal, fruit, vegetable, person, car, motorcycle. A class provides the specification or the blueprint or the mold or the model or the pattern or the outline for real concrete objects. An object is an instance of a class. For instance, my car belongs to the class of cars, but it is a concrete car that I can drive in, and it is a different entity from all other instances of the car class. In Java, all instance objects of a class have the same features. Features include methods and fields to hold data. For example, a class can specify that all cars have a color, a year, and a VIN. Each instance object has its own data fields, different from all other instance objects. For example, each car has different data. My car has the following data. Color is yellow, the year was 2010, and the VIN is VX007ABC. These instance data fields are accessed from instance methods, which are different from the static methods that we already have learned about, in that they don't have a static keyword. Now I'm going to show you how to create a class, and the example we'll be using is the class of cars. I'm going to show you how to add instance data fields. In this case, it's going to be color, year, and VIN. Then I'm going to show you how to add methods to modify the data fields. Then I'm going to show you how to create different instances of the car class in BlueJ. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to use objects in your own programs. Let me show you. Let's start by starting BlueJ and create a new project. I'm going to call it class and object. And in that project, I'm going to create a new class called car. Let's open up the class in the editor. And write a good description. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Now I'm going to create the instance data fields that we're going to be using. So the first one is color. I'm making the fields private so that other classes can't get access to them. These fields will be in all instances of the car class. So every car will have a color, which is a string. Every car will have a year, which is an int. And every car will have a VIN, which is a string. Now, since these fields are private, we're going to need some way of setting them, otherwise all cars will look alike. So let me create the instance methods to modify the instance data fields. We're going to make these methods public. I'm going to assign the new color to the color field that's in the car class. So when this method is called, we pass in a parameter, which is then assigned to the color field that's declared up here. And that will store the new color in that car. We put in the other two. This time the year is an integer. Again, when we call this method setYear, the parameter we're passing in will be used here and is therefore assigned to this instance field in the object. And the last one, and that's all the methods we need in order to modify the fields up here. Let me compile this. And now I can go into the main window here and create instances of the car class. Let me show you. So we call this function, this method right here, new car, and it will ask us for a name of that car. And let's say my car is a Volvo. So we just created an instance object and stored it in a variable called Volvo. However, this Volvo is very undescript. Let's inspect it. It doesn't have a color, it was made in year 0, and it doesn't have a VIN. Let's change that. Let's call the methods that we created earlier. So the color of my Volvo was yellow. And the year was 2010. And the VIN was, it's a string, VX007 ABC. Now let's inspect this Volvo. And here's all the data that we put in all the fields where they belong. Let's create a new object. We do the same thing again. We go into new car, and this one is going to be my Toyota. And let's set that one up. Color of my Toyota is gray. And it is brand spanking new from 2017. And the VIN is J123. As you can tell now, I created two instance objects which are both cars. They're both instances of the class called car, but they're both separate from each other and contain very different data. We could continue making cars all day, but I'll stop right here. Now I'm going to show you how to use classes and objects in your own programs. Let me start by opening up the editor. And now I'm going to put in a static main method. Note that this is a static method. Just going to put it here at the end of the class, but it could be anywhere. And let me create a new Volvo for myself. Use the keyword new to create new objects. This is completely equivalent to how we just created instance objects in the main window. Let me go ahead and create a Toyota. Again, the Toyota object is completely equivalent to the object that we created in the main window before. A couple of things to note. This tells us that this variable contains a car, or an instance variable of the class car, which is the class that we're inside of. This is the keyword that's used to create new objects, and this calls the constructor for the class car. With every class comes a default constructor. That's the one we're calling here. Now, we've created the objects, but we can't really do anything with them. For instance, we can't really get back the data that we've set on them. So let's create some getters to access the instance data fields. I'll start with how to get the color back. So I'm going to create a new method, which is going to return the string containing the color. This method takes no parameters and just returns the color that we set previously. This color is the instance field up here. And for accessing the year is an int. And return the year field. And finally the VIN. Let's compile and see that everything's good. And now we can access the data that's in the fields using the access methods. Let me show you. Now let's compile and run this. The method we're going to run is our new static main method. And there are the results. And we could do the same for the Toyota or any other object that we choose to create. And that's pretty much all there is to classes and objects.